The facts you are about to see regarding Elon Musk are largely the opposite of his public claims, which are amplified on his billion-dollar media platforms about cutting government spending or backing transparency or patrolling supposed waste, fraud, abuse, corruption, and conflicts. Because here you go. Under the Trump administration, a top agency you see here is mulling handing a $2 billion plus contract to Elon Musk's company. And this isn't starting from neutral. The government had already decided on a deal with Verizon. So through the normal process with the normal expertise and competition, that's where they landed. This Trump administration change that is being considered, that the Washington Post has reported, would cancel that deal and hand it to this Musk company. And that's $2 billion from you, the taxpayer. It would go into Musk's empire. All his emphasis, all the talk, all the hype on cutting other people's government contracts and jobs, that gets attention, and some of it should get attention because there's scrutiny naturally on those kind of big moves. But it also may have people, especially the MAGA crowds and Musk fans out there, believing that his main or big focus is this newfound interest in government efficiency, as if someone who's spent his life building companies, making money, enriching himself is now just taking a total left turn into his governing phase. Well, it only took a few weeks to show how that is not the case. It took a few weeks for Elon Musk to be caught in this kind of self-interested self-dealing. Musk's team lobbying a cabinet member to give him the deal, which really adds layers onto the imagery we saw at this week's cabinet meeting, where Musk positioned himself above all the seated government officials in the cabinet, holding forth. Now, his aides at that agency, because remember, they've infiltrated all these different places, are claiming they determined the job should go to Musk's company, Starlink. In other words, it should go to them. You can even see some of Musk's officials inside the FAA, one engineer there on the right in front of the rocket. The services at stake also matter. So this isn't just a story about whether it is fair or a process story, because this contract involves the nation's air traffic control system. And this contract involves how our air traffic controllers will work and how they'll communicate, and why, without Elon Musk in the room, in a conflict of interest, corruptly lobbying for himself, why the government originally thought a different company was better situated to handle the work. Musk now attacking that company, saying the Verizon system is not working, and so it's putting air travelers at serious risk. Again, you can read those words posted on the platform he owns in the sort of dystopian political capitalist moment we're in, and you can just say, oh, that must be true because somebody said it. Or you could peel back a layer and say, this is something someone is saying to get billions of dollars from you, taxpayer money, that he did not get under the normal bidding and fair process that existed. And I'm not telling you government procurement is a perfect process. I'm just telling you he lost. And now he wants to take it back from Verizon by talking about safety and abusing his government access and apparently lying about transparency and recusal. Now, Musk is blatant. Maybe he thinks he'll get away with it. But this right here is the definition of a conflict of interest. The two men made a vow, you might recall, in their unusual presidential joint interview. And one of the things that came up, because, quote, even Fox had to ask about it, or you could just say Sean Hannity brought up a fair topic, right? However you put it, it came up in that interview. What about the obvious conflict of interest? They made a vow. Musk would recuse from areas of the government that involve him and his companies. The Washington Post report shows he's not doing that. Meanwhile, FAA experts aren't yet making the switch. Musk's team then is pressing those officials. Again, that's a power move. That's not saying, oh, we deserve it or the safety measures would be improved. It's just abusing power and access and corruption, which is precisely why this type of thing is usually more limited. And they are pressing officials who, in this political environment working for Trump, have praised Musk.
Elon Musk's team at SpaceX have come in and given their advice.
I went to Elon Musk and said, I need you to help me build. I want the best minds, and Elon has access to them, and that's why I'm having a conversation with them.
FAA also investigating SpaceX for a rocket that blew up in midair last month. It's one of many agencies that has reviews into Musk's companies, and that's okay. And I'm not prejudging. We don't have evidence to say that every one of those investigations means anything particularly negative about the company. That's how the government works. But now these companies that audit Musk's work for safety and other reasons are now being audited by Musk, a non-cabinet member who is lording his power over the whole cabinet while demanding $2 billion on the side. The chutzpah. Now, Donald Trump, as you probably know, has been very defiant on many issues. But this isn't one where he's just completely claiming there's no potential problem. Donald Trump also has proven to have decent PR and even political instincts. He won that election, right? He seems to understand that if you admit that you're just allowing Musk to take taxpayer money for himself, or that you allow corrupt self-dealing like we see in kleptocracies, like many people often try to say the American model doesn't allow that and we're not as corrupt as some other parts of the world. If you admitted to all that, that would look pretty bad. Maybe too corrupt to admit to. So as I mentioned, I want to show you a couple examples. In the joint interview and in other messaging from the White House, this is exactly this kind of self-dealing. Hey, Musk wants $2 billion. It's exactly the kind of self-dealing that Trump has repeatedly claimed wouldn't be allowed, that Musk would have to completely recuse from this. Instead of what we're seeing now, which is he's not recusing, and apparently Trump and other officials are surrendering.
I mean, I haven't asked the president for anything ever.
And if it comes up, how will you handle it?
Well,
He won't be involved.
yeah, I'll recuse myself if it is.
If there's a conflict, he won't be involved.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't want that, and he won't want it.
If Elon Musk comes across a conflict of interest with the contracts and the funding that Doge is overseeing, then Elon will excuse himself from those contracts.
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say, like, wait a second, hey, Elon, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. It's not like people are going to be shy about saying that.
Here we are. You don't have to be shy. This is the conflict. This is your money. This is the people's taxpayer money. Musk wants $2 billion taken away from Verizon and given to him. That's the conflict. And again, you got to be skeptical. You got to be kind of smart. A lot of people, they see that clip on the internet and they say, Elon Musk said he'd recuse. What more do you want? We want him to recuse, like he said he would, but he didn't. Some of the clips I just played you are from the last week. It's not like some old thing a long time ago, maybe somehow. It's roughly overlapping with the period of time that the Washington Post is reporting people working for Musk are doing this. Then you have the cuts. Musk continuing to go after the government programs that do not send him billions. A fresh round of firings that could be the most widespread yet, also courtesy of Post reporting. Social Security officials told to cut staff by half. People at labor who do equal employment opportunity enforcement told they're going to have to go down by potentially 90% reductions, which basically means you're not going to have that enforcement, right? Just this week, judges handed Trump setbacks on the immigration issues and some aspects of the Musk cuts. Today, Trump did get a judge to side with him over firing officials. And the Supreme Court gave Trump more time, effectively a delay that holds the status quo, meaning they're not going to stop some of these cuts in the way they're being pursued for now, but that case likely to take more argument and ultimately perhaps a full Supreme Court briefing. Meanwhile, fired USAID workers were seen leaving the building today because this is what some of the actual people and the actual jobs eliminated looks like. Supporters gathered, there was applause and encouragement. It was, at times, an emotional scene. I'll go on.
Appreciate you. We appreciate all the work that you did. Thank you.
This is the real world. These are real people with real jobs around the country. Over 900,000 affected in red states alone from federal workers. We showed some of the pushback and the concern about that around the country. But you can't look at this in isolation. As far back as the founding of this country, there has always been a narrative, a discussion about limiting government. It's not new to Trump or Musk. It is in the very fabric of the founding documents, limiting government power out of concerns for abuse and out of sometimes concern that the government shouldn't be too big and sprawling and distant from the lived daily lives of the people. And so Elon Musk, if nothing else, is a skilled communicator and student. He has learned some of the rhetoric and the practices of this country. He's learned how people talk about politics. He's bought a whole platform where he can artificially make it sound like he's more popular than he is, or boost a tweet like that, where it's not just a tweet, it's an effort to get $2 billion, as I mentioned, out of you. But you can't look at that only in isolation. You have to look at the broader effort here to take control of this government and then give money, which, again, I cannot emphasize this enough. You will hear me repeat it because it's true and important. Your money back to some of the richest people on earth in a process that they couldn't win the first time. He didn't win the FAA contract. A different company won it. So rather than just accepting the loss, which might be familiar if you think about a habit that Trump and Musk share, Elon Musk says, let me just go back in and cheat this time and use my power to demand that which I otherwise couldn't win in the free market. So it's not only apparently unfair, apparently corrupt, apparently a conflict of interest that he's not recusing, breaking his own vow. It's also a sign of exactly why you need people who are honest about how they want to be skeptical of government and not merely hijacking it to separate you from your money.